The great hall of the Galactic Assembly was filled with beings from 1,000 worlds. Strange creatures with scales and feathers and things that had no name in human languages sat in their floating chairs. They watched and whispered as the human woman walked to the center platform. Ambassador Park Sujin stood alone under the bright lights. She was small compared to most aliens in the room. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her dark eyes showed no fear. She had spent 15 years learning how to stand in this room without shaking. "Honored members of the Assembly," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "Humanity comes before you today with a proposal of friendship." In the upper seats, High Arbiter Moloth watched her with his 4 yellow eyes. He was Velthari, and the Velthari had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. His gray skin was covered in golden marks that showed his high rank. To him, humans were like insects that had learned to talk. Sujin continued her speech. She talked about a joint exploration mission. Humans and Velthari working together to map new star systems. It was a small thing, really, but it was a step forward. When she finished, polite sounds came from the assembly. High Arbiter Moloth rose from his seat. His long robes flowed like water as he moved. "The Empire welcomes this proposal," he said. His voice was like honey poured over broken glass. "Humanity has proven itself a worthy addition to our galactic family." Sujin bowed her head in thanks, but she noticed something in his eyes. A flash of something cold and hungry. She had seen that look before, in the eyes of predators, far away from the assembly, on the edge of human space. Admiral Kung Taiho stood on the bridge of his flagship. The ship was called the Righteous Storm, and it was the pride of Earth's fleet. Taiho was a tall man with gray at his temples and scars on his hands. He had fought in the border wars 20 years ago, before the peace treaty. "Sir," said his lieutenant, "we have detected unusual movements near the Velthari border." Taiho walked to the display screen. Blue dots showed human ships. Red dots showed Velthari ships. There were many more red dots than usual. "How many?" he asked. "At least 200 warships, sir. They say it is a training exercise." Taiho said nothing for a long moment. He had lost his wife and daughter in a Velthari raid back before the peace. He remembered how the Empire had called that a training exercise, too. "Send a report to Earth Command," he said, "and keep watching." On Earth, the leaders celebrated the success of the assembly meeting. President Choi Hae-in smiled for the cameras and talked about a new era of cooperation. She was a kind woman who had spent her life trying to build bridges between peoples. She truly believed that peace was possible. When Admiral Taiho's report arrived, she read it carefully. Then she called her advisors. "The Admiral is worried," one of them said. "But he has always been worried. The Velthari have kept the peace for 30 years. Perhaps," said President Hyon. "But perhaps we should listen to him, Madame President. If we increase our military presence on the border, the Velthari might see it as a threat. It could damage the peace we have worked so hard to build." Hyon thought about this for a long time. In the end, she decided to wait and watch. She did not want to be the one who started a war. Back at the Galactic Assembly, Sujin was preparing to return to her quarters when High Arbiter Moloth approached her. He towered over her, his golden robes rustling. "Ambassador Park," he said, "I wanted to congratulate you personally. Your speech was most impressive." "Thank you, High Arbiter," she replied. "I hope this is the beginning of great things for both our peoples." Moloth smiled. At least, she thought it was a smile. With Velthari, it was hard to tell. "Indeed," he said. "Humanity has come so far in such a short time. 50 years ago, you did not even know other life existed in the universe. And now here you are, standing among the stars." "We are fast learners," Sujin said. Yes, you are." Eyes narrowed slightly. "Tell me, Ambassador, do humans still tell stories of your ancient empires? The ones that rose and fell on your little world?" Sujin felt a chill run down her spine, but she kept her face calm. "We remember our history, High Arbiter. We learn from it." "How wise," Moloth said. "The Velthari have ruled for 10,000 years. We have seen many young species rise. Some learned their place in the galaxy. Others... He paused. Others had to be taught. He turned and walked away before Sujin could respond. That night, she could not sleep. She stood at her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. Her home, her people. They were so small in this vast universe, so fragile, she thought about Molith's words. There had been a warning in them, or perhaps a threat. But what could she do? She was just one woman. Just one voice among thousands. In the darkness of deep space, far from any watching eyes, the Velthari war fleet gathered. 200 ships became 300. 300 became 500. They hid in the shadow of a dead star, their weapons ready, their crews waiting. High Arbiter Molith sent a message to his commanders. It was short and simple. The humans have grown too bold. They reach for things that are not theirs. It is time to remind them what they are. It is time to remind the galaxy who rules here. The commanders read the message and smiled their cold Velthari smiles. They had been waiting for this order for a long time. On the bridge of the Righteous Storm, Admiral Taiho looked at his display screen one more time. The red dots were still there, still gathering. He had a bad feeling in his gut. The kind of feeling that had saved his life many times before. Something is coming, he said to himself. I can feel it. He was right. The storm was coming, and when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same. The fragile peace that humanity had trusted for 30 years was about to shatter, and the galaxy would learn that humans were not as weak as they appeared, but that knowledge would come at a terrible price. A price paid in fire and blood, and the screams of the innocent. The clock was ticking, and no one could stop what was about to happen. The morning sun rose over New Incheon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was a beautiful colony on a beautiful world called Haram 4. More than 2 million people lived there. They had built farms and schools and hospitals. Children played in the streets. Families sat down to breakfast together. Governor Yoon Min-ho stood on his balcony and watched the sunrise. He was a simple man who had started as an engineer. 20 years ago, he had helped build the first buildings of New Incheon. Now, he led the whole colony. He was proud of what his people had created. His wife brought him a cup of tea. You look worried, she said. I am always worried, he replied with a small smile. That is my job. The children are asking if we can go to the lake this weekend. Min-ho nodded. Yes, I think we can do that. He had no idea that his family would never see the lake again, in orbit above the planet. Captain Baek Jie commanded the small defense station. She was young for her rank, only 32 years old. She had dark hair cut short and eyes that missed nothing. Under her command were 3 frigates and 200 soldiers. It was not much, but this was a peaceful colony. No one expected trouble here. Her sensor officer suddenly sat up straight. Captain, I am detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. Jie moved to his station. How many? I am not sure. The readings are still coming in. His face went pale. Captain, there are at least 100 ships. They are Velthari. For a moment, Jie felt her heart stop. Then her training took over. Sound the alarm. Get me a channel to the governor now. On his balcony, Governor Min-ho heard the sirens begin to wail. He dropped his teacup and ran inside. His communication device was already buzzing. Governor, said Captain Jihee's voice. We have a situation. A Velthari fleet has just arrived in orbit. Over 100 warships. Min-ho felt cold. That is impossible. We are at peace. I know, sir. I am trying to contact them now. The screen in Min-ho's office flickered to life. The face of a Velthari commander appeared. His eyes were like yellow ice. Humans of this colony, the commander said. The Velthari Empire has determined that your species has violated our sacred territories. You have broken the accord of stellar harmony. Therefore, we demand your immediate and complete surrender. You have 1 hour to comply. If you do not, we will take what is ours by force. The screen went black. Governor Min-ho stared at the empty screen. Violated their territories? That was a lie. Humanity had been careful to respect every border, every rule. This was not justice. This was an excuse. He opened a channel to Earth. This is Governor Yoon Minho of New Incheon. We are under attack by Velthari forces. I repeat, we are under attack. They are demanding our surrender. Please send help immediately. He knew help would not arrive in time. Earth was too far away. But he sent the message anyway. Then he turned to his aide. Begin evacuation of the civilian population. Get as many people underground as possible, Governor, his aide said. Where will we send them? There is nowhere to go. Minho looked out the window at his beautiful city. Just get them underground. Give them any chance we can. In orbit, Captain Ga positioned her 3 tiny frigates between the colony and the massive Velthari fleet. She knew she could not win. She knew she would probably die, but she was a soldier of Earth, and she would not run. Captain, her first officer said quietly, we cannot fight this many ships. I know, she replied, but we can buy time. Every minute we hold them is another minute for evacuation. She opened a channel to her crew. This is Captain Beak. I will not lie to you. The odds are against us. Most of us will not survive this day. But down on that planet are 2 million people. Our families, our friends. If we can give them even one more hour, one more chance, then our deaths will mean something. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of. The crew answered with a roar of defiance. The Velthari fleet moved forward. The battle lasted 23 minutes. Jihee's frigates fought like demons. They dodged and weaved through the enemy formation. They fired every weapon they had. They even rammed enemy ships when their ammunition ran out. The Velthari lost 12 ships before the human frigates were destroyed. Jigay was still alive when her ship began to burn. She managed to send one last transmission to Earth. This is Captain Beak, GA. New Incheon is falling. The Velthari have broken the peace. They attacked without warning, without reason. We fought as hard as we could. Tell Earth, tell them not to surrender. Tell them to remember us. Tell them to make the Empire pay for what they have done today. Her voice was calm and steady, even as the flames surrounded her. Goodbye. Earth, it was an honor to serve. Transmission ended. Below, the bombardment began. The Velthari rained fire from the sky. Buildings crumbled. Streets melted. The beautiful city of New Incheon became a sea of flames. Governor Minho died trying to save children from a burning school. His last words were a prayer for his people in one terrible morning. 1.8 million human beings died across the galaxy. At the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Park Soo-jin watched the footage in horror. The images played on every screen. Burning cities. Dying children. Ships exploding in the darkness of space. She could not breathe. She could not think. All she could do was watch. Across the chamber, High Arbiter Moleth sat in his golden chair. He was watching her, and he was smiling. The other alien species looked away. Some seemed sad. Some seemed afraid. But none of them spoke. None of them stood up to challenge the Velt. Hari, this was how the galaxy worked. The strong took what they wanted. The weak suffered and died. Moleth rose and addressed the assembly. The humans violated our sacred laws. We had no choice but to respond. We hope this matter is now closed. The Empire wishes only for peace. Peace. He spoke of peace while the blood of millions was still warm. Soo-jin felt something change inside her. The part of her that had believed in diplomacy, in talking, in finding common ground, that part died with New Incheon. She stood up. Her voice was quiet but carried through the whole chamber. You call this peace? You murdered 2 million innocent people and call it peace? Moleth looked at her with mild surprise. Ambassador Park, please control yourself. These emotional outbursts are not appropriate. You will hear from humanity, Soo-jin said. This is not over. Moleth laughed softly. What can humanity do? You are small. You are weak. You are nothing. Accept your place in the galaxy, little human, or more of your colonies will burn. Sujin said nothing more. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the aliens whispered among themselves. They felt sorry for the humans, but they also felt relief. At least the Velthri were not attacking them. None of them understood what they had just witnessed. None of them understood what was coming. Humanity had been peaceful. Humanity had been patient. Humanity had followed every rule and kept every promise, and humanity had just been betrayed. Now the galaxy would see what happened when humans stopped being peaceful. When humans stopped being patient, the Velthri had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something that should have been left sleeping, and they would pay for it with everything they had. Earth was crying in every city, in every continent. People gathered in the streets. They held candles. They held pictures of loved ones lost on New Inchin. They held each other and wept. The footage from Captain Beak, Jihee's last transmission, played on every screen in the world. Her calm voice, her steady eyes, her final words. She had become a symbol overnight. The face of human courage. The face of human loss. President Choi Hae-yeon sat alone in her office. The weight of the dead pressed down on her shoulders. 1.8 million people, families, children, dreams that would never come true. She had spent her whole life believing in peace. She had refused to listen when Admiral Taiho warned her about the Velthri. She had thought talking could solve everything. She had been wrong. A knock came at her door. Her aide entered with Admiral Kong Taiho behind him. Taiho looked older than he had a week ago. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but there was fire in them too. A cold, burning fire.
Madam President,
he said. The military is ready to present our options. Hae-yeon looked at him for a long moment. You warned me, Admiral. I did not listen. That does not matter now, Taiho replied. What matters is what we do next. They walked together to the emergency council chambers. Every leader on Earth was there, either in person or by hologram. The room was silent, heavy, waiting. Hye-yeon took her place at the head of the table. She looked around at the faces of her people. Some were angry. Some were afraid. All of them looked to her for guidance. The Velthri Empire has attacked our colony without warning, she began. They have murdered nearly 2 million of our citizens. They have broken every promise they ever made to us. She paused. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. They expect us to surrender. They expect us to bow down and accept our place as their servants. They think we are weak. They think we are afraid. She stood up straight. They are wrong. Admiral Taiho stepped forward. For 30 years, we have kept the peace. We have smiled and nodded and followed their rules, but we never trusted them. Not completely. He pressed a button on the table. Holographic images appeared in the air. Ships, weapons, soldiers, more than anyone in the galaxy knew existed. Project Horizon, Taiho said. Since the day we signed the peace treaty, we have been preparing for this moment. Hidden shipyards in asteroid fields. Secret training facilities on dead moons. Weapons that the Velthri have never seen. The council members stared at the images in shock. We have 4,000 warships, Taiho continued. 2 million trained soldiers in cryosleep, ready to wake at a moment's notice. We have weapons that can break through Velthri shields. We have tactics they cannot predict. One of the council members found his voice. Why did we not know about this? Because secrets do not stay secret when too many people know them, Taiho replied. The Velthri have spies everywhere. If they had learned about Project Horizon, they would have attacked us long ago. We had to wait. We had to be ready, President Hae-yeon spoke again. The question before this council is simple. Do we surrender or do we fight? The room erupted in voices. Some argued for negotiation. Some demanded immediate war. Some simply did not know what to do. Then a new voice cut through the noise. Ambassador Park Soo-jin had entered the chamber. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were empty, but she walked with purpose. I have spent 15 years trying to make peace with the Velthri, she said. I believed that if we were patient, if we were kind, if we showed them we meant no harm, they would accept us. I was a fool. She looked around the room. I watched the footage from New Incheon. I saw them smile as our people died. They will never see us as equals. They will never give us peace. The only thing they understand is power. President Heian nodded slowly. Ambassador, what do you recommend? War, Sujin said. The word hung in the air like a blade. Total war. We must show them that attacking humanity has a price. A price so high that no one will ever dare to attack us again. The room fell silent. Heian closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her decision was made. Then war it is. She stood and faced the cameras that would broadcast her words to all of humanity. People of Earth, people of our colonies across the stars, today we have been attacked without cause or warning. Today, nearly 2 million of our brothers and sisters have been murdered by an empire that sees us as nothing more than insects to be stepped on. Her voice grew stronger. I say no. I say that every human life has value. I say that we will not be slaves. We will not bow down. We will not accept a place beneath those who think themselves our masters. Today, I declare that the United Nations of Earth is at war with the Velthari Empire. We did not start this fight, but we will finish it, no matter the cost, no matter how long it takes. We will make them understand that humanity is not to be trifled with. To the Velthari who are watching this broadcast, I have one message. You made a mistake. You thought we were weak because we wanted peace. You thought we were cowards because we did not fight. You were wrong. We were not weak. We were patient. We were not cowards. We were waiting. Now the waiting is over. Now you will see what humanity can do when pushed to the limit. Now you will learn why we survived everything our own world threw at us. Wars, plagues, disasters. We endured them all. We grew stronger from them all. And now we are coming for you. She paused. Her eyes seemed to burn with cold fire. Remember New Incheon? Remember the children who never grew up? Remember Captain Beak Ga and her 3 little ships that stood against your armada? Remember what you did, because we will remember forever. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, the crying stopped. Something else took its place. Something older. Something darker. Something that had slept in human hearts since. The first tribe faced a hostile world and refused to die. Anger, determination, the will to survive at any cost, in hidden shipyards across the solar system. Massive doors opened for the first time in decades. Ships emerged like dragons waking from a long sleep. Their hulls gleamed. Their weapons hummed. Their crews were ready. In underground facilities, 2 million soldiers opened their eyes. They had been sleeping, waiting, preparing. Now they rose and reached for their weapons. Ambassador Sujin returned to the Galactic Assembly with a new mission. Not to beg for peace. Not to negotiate. But to deliver humanity's formal declaration of war. She stood in the same chamber where she had been mocked and ignored. She read the declaration in a voice that carried no emotion. When she finished, High Arbiter Moleth laughed. Foolish humans. You cannot win this war. You do not have the ships. You do not have the weapons. You will be crushed within a month. Sujin looked at him with dead eyes. Perhaps. But you will bleed for every system you take. You will pay for every human life with 1,000 of your own. And even if you destroy us all, you will never forget the price we made you pay. She turned and walked out. Behind her, the galaxy whispered. They could not believe what they were seeing. The primitive newcomers were actually fighting back. It was madness. It was suicide. Or perhaps it was something else. Entirely. Perhaps it was the beginning of a new era. An era. Written in fire and blood, and the stubborn refusal of one small species to accept its own destruction. The war had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. Again, the first months of the war were terrible. The Velthari had 10,000 years of experience in conquest. Their ships were powerful. Their commanders were skilled. They pushed into human space like a wave of fire and steel. 3 more colonies fell. Millions more died. The names became a list of sorrows. Bright Harbor, New Soul, Dawn's Edge. Each one burned. Each one was mourned. Each one added fuel to humanity's rage. But something strange was happening. The Velthiri were not winning as easily as they expected. Admiral Kung Tai Ho stood on the Bridge of the Righteous Storm and watched the battle unfold on his screens. His fleet was outnumbered 3-1. By Velthiri standards, this should have been a quick victory for the Empire. It was not.
Squadron 7 break left and draw their cruisers toward the asteroid field, Tai Ho ordered.
Squadron 3, prepare to ambush from behind the moon. Wait for my signal. His officers moved with precision. They had trained for years in secret. They knew their ships like they knew their own hands. The Velthiri fleet commander was confused. Human ships did not behave like they should. They did not form neat lines and charge forward like every other species in the galaxy. Instead, they scattered like water, reformed like smoke, and struck from directions no one expected. Tejo called it the broken mirror strategy. Small, fast ships that worked in perfect coordination. Hit and run. Strike and fade. Never fight fair. Never stay still. By the end of the day, the Velthiri had lost 30 ships. Humanity had lost 8. It was not a great victory, but it was something the galaxy had never seen before. A human fleet had fought a Velthiri. Fled and survived. On a small ship in the middle of the battle, Lieutenant Han Wujin flew his fighter through a storm of weapons fire. He was 24 years old. He had been a delivery pilot before the war. Now he was something else. His ship was damaged. His weapons were empty. But ahead of him, a Velthiri command ship was turning to escape. Control. This is Wujin. My engines are failing. Request permission to ram. There was silence on the radio. Then his commander's voice came through. Wujin, there has to be another way. There is not, sir. If that ship escapes, it will report our tactics to the rest of the fleet. We cannot let them learn. Another pause. Understood, Lieutenant. It has been an honor. Wujin smiled. He thought of his mother back on Earth. He thought of the friends he had made. He thought of the life he would never have. Then he pushed his throttle. Forward, his small fighter crashed through the command ship's bridge at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. Someone had recorded the moment. The footage spread across human space within hours. Han Wujin became a legend, symbol. Proof that humans would sacrifice everything for victory. More importantly, the footage reached other species. Species that had been conquered by the Velthiri long ago. Species that had given up hope. They began to whisper. Perhaps the humans could win. Perhaps the Empire was not invincible. On a secret research station hidden in a nebula, Dr. Sio Nara stared at her screens with exhausted eyes. She had not slept in 3 days. She had been working on one problem since the war began. Velthiri. Shields. Every species in the galaxy used the same basic shield technology. The Velthiri had the best version. Their shields could stop almost anything. But Nara had found something. A tiny flaw. A frequency that the shields could not block. I found it, she whispered. Then she shouted it. I found it. Within weeks, human weapons were modified. The first test came at the Battle of the Red Corridor, a narrow passage between 2 nebulae. Admiral Taiho led 50 ships against a Velthiri battle group of 200. The Velthiri commander was confident. His shields would protect him while his superior. Numbers destroyed the humans. Then human weapons began to cut. Through his shields like they were not there, the battle lasted for hours. When it ended, the entire Velthiri battle group was destroyed. Humanity lost 11 ships. The galaxy watched in shock. This was not possible. This was not how wars were supposed to go, but it was happening. Other alien species began to notice. The Valmeri, who had been slaves to the Empire for 3,000 years, started sabotaging Velthiri supply lines. The Keith, a race of traitors, began secretly selling weapons to humanity. The Sylvan shared intelligence about Velthiri fleet movements. None of them did it openly. They were too afraid. But in the shadows, they helped. The war shifted. The Velthari advance slowed. Then it stopped. Then inch by inch it began to reverse. High Arbiter Moleth watched the reports with growing fear. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were primitives. They were supposed to fall quickly. Instead, they were winning. He went to the Emperor himself. The Velthari Emperor was ancient, his body kept alive by machines for thousands of years. His eyes were cold and empty. The humans are stronger than we expected, Moleth said. We need more ships, more soldiers. We have sent everything we can spare, the Emperor replied. Other species are watching. If we show weakness here, they may rebel. Then we use the forbidden weapons. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. The forbidden weapons had not been used in 2,000 years. They were planet killers. Weapons that could destroy entire worlds in moments. If we use them, the Emperor said slowly, the Assembly may act against us. The Assembly is full of cowards. They will do nothing. And once Earth is destroyed, the humans will surrender. Their spirit will break. The Emperor considered this. Then he nodded. Do it. End this war. A secret Velthari fleet was assembled. 50 ships, carrying the most terrible weapons in the galaxy. They launched toward Earth through hidden routes, avoiding all human detection. Admiral Taiho was celebrating a victory when the message arrived. An Allied spy had sent a warning. Planet killers were coming for Earth. The color drained from his face. How long do we have? He asked. 18 hours, sir. Maybe less. Taiho looked at the map of the galaxy. His fleet was deep in Velthari space, pushing toward the heart of the Empire. If he turned back now, he might reach Earth in time. But he would have to abandon all the ground they had gained. He made his decision in seconds. We do not go back, he said. His officers stared at him. Sir, but Earth... I know. Send a message to President Heian. Tell her what is coming. And then, he paused. Then we continue toward Velthar Prime. Sir, you cannot mean... The Velthari want to destroy our home? Fine, then we will threaten theirs. If Earth burns, their sacred homeworld burns with it. They want to end everything. Then we end everything together. It was madness. It was suicide. It was the most human plan imaginable. Taiho opened a channel to his entire fleet. All ships, new course. Maximum speed. We are going to Velthar Prime. We are going to put our guns to the head of their homeworld. And we are going to see who blinks first. The fleet turned and accelerated. The countdown began. In 18 hours, either Earth would die, or the galaxy would learn that humanity was willing to destroy everything rather than surrender. The final gambit had begun, and there was no turning back. The Galactic Assembly was in chaos. News of the planet killers had leaked. Everyone knew that Earth would be destroyed within hours. The alien species whispered among themselves. Some felt pity. Some felt relief. Some simply waited to see what would happen next. High Arbiter Moleth sat in his golden chair, looking calm and satisfied. The humans had fought well, he admitted. Better than anyone expected. But in the end, they would lose. They always lost. Every young species that challenged the Empire learned this lesson eventually. Then the doors of the chamber opened, and Ambassador Park Sujin walked in. She looked different. Gone was the patient diplomat who had smiled and bowed and tried to make friends. In her place was something harder, something colder, something that had been forged in the fires of war. I demand an emergency session, she said. Her voice carried through the entire chamber. Moleth laughed. Ambassador Park, I am surprised you are here. Should you not be on Earth, saying goodbye to your loved ones? Sujin ignored him. She walked to the center platform and looked around at the assembled species. Members of the Galactic Assembly, for too long, you have sat in silence while the Velthari Empire did whatever it wanted. You watched as they conquered. You watched as they destroyed. You watched as they broke every law this assembly was created to protect. She pressed a button. Holographic images appeared in the air. Images of death and destruction going back thousands of years. No, the massacre of the Karathi. 12 billion dead. The extinction of the Varan. An entire species erased from existence. The enslavement of the Valmore. 3,000 years of chains. More images. More atrocities. More crimes that had been buried and forgotten. And now new Inchin. 1.8 million human beings murdered because we dared to believe we could be equals in this galaxy. The assembly was silent. Some species looked away in shame. Others looked at the Velthari with fear. High Arbiter Malith rose. Enough of this theater. The humans violated our laws. They brought this upon themselves, and in a few hours their homeworld will be destroyed, and this matter will be closed forever. Sujin smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who held a secret. You're confident, High Arbiter. But tell me, where is Admiral Kang Tai-Ho right now? Malith paused. Running away, I assume? Your fleet cannot stop our planet killers. You're right. Our fleet is not defending Earth. They are not running away either. They are heading to Velthar Prime. They are carrying doomsday weapons of our own. If your planet killers fire on Earth, our weapons will fire on your homeworld. The chamber erupted in noise. Malith's 4 eyes went wide. You are bluffing, he said. But his voice was not as steady as before. Am I? Let me explain something to you, High Arbiter. Something you never understood about humans. Sujin stepped closer to him. We come from a violent world. Our history is written in blood. We killed each other for thousands of years over land and resources and ideas. We built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. And we almost used them more than once. But we learned something from all that violence. We learned that sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to make them understand that hurting you will cost them everything. We call it mutual destruction. We balance on the edge of the cliff together. And if one falls, both fall. Malith shook his head. No species would sacrifice their own homeworld. You are bluffing, Humans with Sujin said. We would rather die standing than live on our knees. We would rather burn everything to ash than let you win. That is who we are. That is what you never understood. She turned back to the assembly. So here is the choice. Members of this assembly. You can sit in silence and watch 2 civilizations destroy each other. Or you can finally stand up and say that enough is enough. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then something happened that no one expected. At the back of the chamber, in seats that had been empty for 3,000 years, shapes began to appear. Tall figures made of light and shadow. Their forms were unclear, as if they existed in more dimensions than the eye could see. The Silent Ones had awoken. The entire assembly held its breath. The Silent Ones were the founders of the Galactic Assembly. They had created the laws that governed all civilized species. Then they had gone quiet, watching, but never speaking. No one knew why. No one dared to ask. One of them moved forward. Its voice was like wind through ancient trees. We have watched. We have listened. We have waited. The Silent One turned to face Malith. The Velthari have broken the founding laws. Not once, not twice, but countless times across countless years. We have seen. We have remembered. Malith fell to his knees. Great ones I can explain, ... silence. The word was not loud, but it silenced everything. The Velthari seat on this assembly is revoked. Any attack on Earth will be considered an attack on the assembly itself. All member species are bound to respond. Other alien species began to stand. One by one, they found their courage. The Valmarie, the Keith, the Sylvan, dozens more. They stood together for the first time in thousands of years. Malith looked around in desperation. His empire, his power, everything he had built was crumbling before his eyes. You cannot do this, he whispered. It is already done, the Silent One replied. The age of Velthari tyranny ends today. A message was sent to the Velthari planet killer fleet. They were ordered to stand down. The commanders looked at each other in confusion. Then they looked at the messages pouring in from home. The Empire was collapsing. Their leaders were surrendering. The planet killers powered down their weapons. Earth was saved. On the other side of the galaxy. Admiral Taiho received the news. He sat down heavily in his command chair. For a long moment, he did not speak. "Sir," his lieutenant asked. "What do we do now?" Taiho laughed. It was a tired laugh, but a real one. "We go home, we rest, and then we build. We build something better than what came before." Back at the assembly, Sujin stood surrounded by aliens who had once ignored her. Now they looked at her with something new in their eyes. Respect, maybe even fear. She did not feel like a hero. She felt empty, tired, old. But she also felt something else. Hope the war was over. Humanity had not just survived. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever. Months later, Sujin stood at the memorial for New Inchin. The names of the dead were carved into black stone. 1.8 million names. It would take days to read them all. Admiral Taiho walked up beside her. He looked different now. Some of the hardness had left his eyes. "They are calling you the diplomat who ended an empire," he said. Sujin shook her head. "I just did what needed to be done." Captain Beak, Jiehan Wujin, Governor Yoon Minho, they are the real heroes. They gave everything. Taiho nodded. "What will you do now?" "Build," she said. "Help the species, the Velthari oppressed. Make sure nothing like this ever happens again." She paused. "And remember, always remember what we lost. And what we almost became." They stood together in silence, watching the stars. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They had thought humans were weak because they wanted peace. They had thought humans were soft because they smiled and talked, tried to find common ground. They had been wrong. Humans were not weak. They were patient. They were not soft. They were hopeful. They believed in a better future. They fought for it. And when that future was threatened, they showed the universe what happened when hope turned to rage. The Velthari Empire would never recover. It fractured into a dozen pieces, each one too small to threaten anyone ever again. And in the annals of galactic history, a new chapter was written. The chapter where a small species from an insignificant world looked at an ancient empire and refused to kneel. The chapter where humanity arrived, not as servants, not as slaves, not as inferiors, but as equals, as allies, as friends, and as a warning to anyone who might think of testing them again. Never underestimate. Humanity, they will surprise you every time.